This is TWiT.
Matteo has one device in his hardware shack. The power's hardly on. It's like a light blinking, and there's a single device, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that back. Look at that back.
So Matteo, you have the Huawei.
Baby's
You were
got
at
back.
the Huawei
Look at that
Mate
color.
20
Do that
Pro.
again. Do that
It's
again.
2 colors. It's amazing.
Do it again.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the Huawei Mate 20 Pro in
That's hot.
Twilight. And
Wow.
not only is it hot, they've done what they did with the Panda Pixel 2 XL and gave us a
Cool.
proper
Wow.
orange red button.
That's great.
So, this is arguably the prettiest phone of 2018,
Wow.
and I doubt anyone will be able to overtake it. But we can go into that in a bit more detail. So today I was a guest of Huawei here in London at the launch of the Huawei Mate 20 series. And I'm going to say series because they launched more than just one device. So what they've launched is the Huawei Mate 20, which is the standards or base model of the Huawei Mate 20 series. They launched the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, which is similar but has some significant upgrades over the Mate 20. They then also launched the Huawei Mate 20X, which is a phablet with a 7.2-inch screen and same cameras as in the Huawei Mate 20 Pro. So a significantly bigger, better device for some tasks such as gaming or consuming video without access to power for a long time.
And a teardrop notch, I see, as they are being come to know.
Teardrop notch.
Sorry, I should clarify. On the Mate 20X, the 7.2 inch version of this has a teardrop notch.
So yes, Huawei have obviously embraced the notch and have made it their own to a certain extent. And as well as that, they also launched the Porsche design Huawei Mate 20 RS, which is the Huawei Mate 20 Pro with Porsche designs, industrial design, and know-how, adding some leather and some very strong red and very black coloring.
Very Porsche.
Yeah.
Very Porsche.
Leather stylings.
And they also launched the Huawei Watch GT. Now, no giggling, Ron and Jason.
Sorry, too late.
We've been through that many moons ago.
Too late.
But yes, the Huawei Watch GT is their new watch, which is a very, very compelling product, both in its base smartwatch features and specifications, but also in pricing, because it starts at 199 euros. So it's going to be a very affordable smartwatch. And the Huawei watch is wound.
It's wound.
Which is
That's
always
true.
a good thing.
Very good. So obviously, I would say arguably, many people would say that in the last couple of years, kind of setting aside the designer watch styles, but like the technology watches, the original Huawei watch was.
You walked into it.
The original Huawei watch was one of the most liked designs. And then they followed it up, and it wasn't nearly as impressive. Does this get back to the original design, do you think?
I think they've taken elements of the original design and their follow-up Huawei Watch 2, which is a more sporty one, and they've iterated on the internals significantly. So it's a new chipset, it has AI on the smartwatch. So there's a lot to like, and it also has a heart rate scanner and NFC. It's a very attractive watch in its own right, without being a smartwatch. It looks and feels very impressive. And in person, it's actually slimmer than I was expecting it to be. It's not as chunky as I thought it would be.
Slimmer for a large wrist or for a smaller wrist?
Well, my wrist is quite small and scrawny, so I'd say it's comfortable on my wrist.
Okay.
Hey, Victor, can you actually scroll through that page? Just look at the pictures.
Of them on the wrist?
There's absolutely no women on this entire page.
Oh, wow.
This is not a watch
You're
made
right.
for me.
You're right.
It's the whole page is just a dude sporting it, and all the watches are super dude-like.
Yeah, they're duding there.
Extreme eye roll. I'm sorry. It's just like it's just very hard for me to sit here and be like, this watch sounds great when it's like obviously not designed for me.
Yeah.
So
Now, was Huawei? Dang it.
I know.
There's no way to do this without tons of W's.
It's okay.
Was Huawei one of the watches?
Huawei, one of the watches that
one of the watches that created.
Wear? Huawei's one of the watches that women won't wear. I did it.
Well,
Didn't they have? I guess my point
Yes, they
here.
had a bejeweled.
They had one that was tailored more,
yes.
and it was a little bit smaller, or was it smaller? I can't remember.
It was pretty.
Okay.
It was like a watch that you would wear as a piece of jewelry.
So why Huawei? Why?
I mean,
Why, Huawei? Why?
I'm sorry, Matteo. I just needed to point that out. It's just it gets very frustrating when I see it.
Yeah, I can understand.
Why won't Huawei think of the women?
Yeah. Seriously.
Oh, man. Just out of control.
I know. Yeah. Why do we always go here?
Where's Daffy Duck when you need him? Or is it Elmer Fudd?
Obviously, there's no crocodile straps, but there is no bunny rabbit fur straps either.
What? All right, so so we've heard about the watch, and the whole series of phones. I mean, they've got all of these different categories. Small, large, everything. What appealed to you? Like, what was the most impressive to you?
So obviously, I've had a bit more hands-on time with the Huawei Mate 20 Pro. And this is the Twilight one I'm holding. Two things stood out to me immediately. The first is the in-screen fingerprint scanner, which is much faster than I was expecting it to be.
Okay.
Fancy.
So there is no other fingerprint scanner on the device. You need to tap your finger on the screen in the touch area.
Okay.
And it just unlocks immediately. And it is impressively fast.
Wow, that looked really good. So does that mean that you have to put your finger on that particular dot on that screen, like that small little circular area, or is it like the bottom third of the screen, all of that's available, or what is that?
So it should be just that particular dot area on the screen.
All right.
And I have tried going off to the left, to the right, above and below, and it doesn't work as well. To have that immediate unlock, you need to do that.
Got it.
And it's an optical fingerprint scanner, which means that it will work with wet hands.
Oh,
so it's similar to the one we saw in the Honor 10, which is great if you are looking at the screen and you know where to position your thumb. But there's no tactile feel to where you're putting your hand. So
that was the question in our chat.
The important thing is with a fingerprint scanner, it's good to have some sort of contour around the area where you're going to be putting your finger. So if it's on the back, you can feel the fingerprint scanner. If it's on the front, it's nice to have something around the area so that you can feel it. That you don't have. But that's not the only way to unlock this device. As well as a passcode, it also the Huawei Mate 20 Pro has a very advanced facial recognition system, which uses a system very similar to the iPhone X and iPhone XS and iPhone XS Max, which is works in the dark. It's 3D face scanning, and that's even faster. I was sitting there setting it up whilst Miriam was also doing hers, and we were really impressed by how quick that face unlock is. It's really taken it to the point where I have the feeling that I will be using face unlock more than I will the finger unlock in the device. Wow. That's the reason for the notch being much wider on the Mate 20 Pro and the Porsche design Mate 20 RS. So those are the two standout features that come to mind first. Then, obviously, there's the overall design. It's a lovely industrial design with a curved screen at the edges, and the back is curved into that. So I believe someone, it was SuperSaf, said that this is what happens when Samsung and Apple have a love child. This is really an impressive device to hold and to look at. It really feels amazing.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
It's as if essentially what Huawei did was say, okay, we'll look at what everyone else is doing and we will make sure we do better. They've really thrown the kitchen sink at it in terms of design. And also the color options. There's quite a wide number of colors available. Those colors, if you have the Twilight one, such as the one that I have, it's a plain glass back. But the other ones have a certain laser etching to them, so that they're much easier to hold. They don't slip around as much, and fingerprints aren't as visible on them. So as far as industrial design goes, it's really impressive. And at the back, one of the biggest features of the industrial design is that 4-dot design module. And when I say 4-dot camera module, I mean there's this square with 4 dots in it. One is a dual-tone LED flash, and there's 3 cameras in it. One's a 40-megapixel color camera. The other's a 20-megapixel color camera, and then there's an 8-megapixel depth sensor. This differs from the Huawei P20 Pro because there's no monochrome sensor. That means that the MUI software and the Huawei camera software can play with some other features. And the main things that come from this are you have the option to go wide angle with a 20-megapixel sensor. So they've essentially put the wide angle lens into it. And in the UX for the camera, so the UI you use to control the camera, you can go from 0.6 optical zoom to 5 times lossless digital zoom, passing by 3 times optical zoom.
And did they explain, because I know Huawei has their own Kirin chips in there that are doing a lot of AI crunching, similar to what Google's doing, and largely defining Google's pixel photo experience, and the results that we're getting there that's pretty much similar to what Huawei's doing, right?
It is. So what they have is obviously their own Kirin 980 chipset. This is a brand new 7-nanometer chipset, which means the transistors are even smaller. The device becomes much more efficient, and it's able to process more information with less power. So this has 2 NPUs, or neural processing units. It means that there's 2 dedicated chips for AI, such as scene recognition, handling multiple exposures and blending them into HDR, or to identify issues such as low light and engage Huawei's night mode. Yeah. So the night modes that I've tested this on is really, really impressive. The Mate 20 Pro is a step up from the P20 Pro, which was already an excellent camera phone. So all this industrial design, chipset, cameras is powered by MUI 9. That's Huawei's Android distribution based on Android 9 Pie. So Google was on stage at this launch saying how important the Huawei partnership is to them. This is one of the first devices launched with Android Pie on it, and they were very happy about it. Yeah. Obviously, there are lots of benefits to that around security. So the Mate series is also aimed at enterprise, much like the Samsung Note series. And they went through all the benefits of Android Pie that are implemented in MUI 9. This is another, thanks for showing, Victor. This is another example of one of the features of the camera. Because they have the wide-angle lens and the amazing camera setup with Leica lenses, they can do macro photography. You can be up to 2.5 centimeters from an object, and you can zoom in on the detail of the cogs of that watch.
That's great.
I deliberately took this one with light reflection on the glass to that watch mechanism because you can see how well and naturally the camera software has handled that.
Wow, I mean that looks really good. There's a lot of detail in there, and I feel like macro has really kind of fallen to the wayside. I feel like on camera phones,
it's all about groupies, man.
Yeah, exactly. They've gone wider, and macro comes in really handy on some pictures. And I always wish that I had better macro performance on my phones.
Me too.
Yeah.
Zoom in on that whip.
Zoom in on that.
Oh, whoa! There we go.
Wow,
whoa,
look at that. That's really impressive.
Look at that detail. That's crazy.
Dang.
Whoa.
That looks really nice.
That looks...
So question yourself, do you really need that magnifying glass anymore?
Yeah.
Apparently not.
That's a good point, yeah.
So, okay, well, this is really impressive. And, again, probably worth pointing out, Huawei in the States has maybe less of a presence, but everywhere else in the world, Huawei is ginormous. I mean, one of the biggest phone makers in the world. So these events, I feel like, get less play here in the States and less attention and everything. That doesn't detract from its importance. These phones are a really big deal.
I think if Huawei were sold here more mainstream, or I guess more widely, I mean, they would be the biggest competitor that Google has in terms of AI.
Yeah, apparently.
AI cameras.
You're right. Yeah.
Not to mention that their interface, like I just know from some people in my life, like their interface tends to attract the people who don't really want like an Apple product, but want the performance of one. And so, they've got that niche going for them.
Yeah. Interesting.
Wow.
So you to use young person's language, are you saying Huawei would be woke?
Oh, move on.
All right.
Okay.
Oh no, we may have killed that.
If you go back a bit, Victor, there's some pictures I can.
I don't know if we'll allow Matteo after that.
Wait till we get to the section, Ron. So if we go back a few, I'll just explain some which I was really impressed with. So there's a selfie with Miriam and I, where there's some challenging lighting conditions. So there's lighting right behind us, which with most selfie cameras would struggle to pick up the people in the forefront because of that lighting. And if you go forwards one, there's one with me with all the lighting behind me, and it still manages to see my face, which is impressive as far as that. And that's, again, computational photography at work. It took multiple exposures, blended them, understood what was in the foreground, what was in the background, and came out with a usable picture. I tried taking the same picture on my BlackBerry Key 1, and it was unusable. I was completely in the dark in that context.
You're in the dark.
If you go forwards one of the things I wanted to show is this is using wide-angle lens. This is what you see at 0.6 times zoom. And then the next few is increased zoom. This is 1 time zoom. And this is 3 times optical zoom, so completely lossless. And then the next one further in is 5 times lossless digital zoom.
Looks pretty good. You see a little bit of softening, but it looks pretty good. Yeah.
It's still, you can still read the sign where you couldn't do so in the original 2 shots.
Absolutely.
So that gives you an idea of the range of it. And so I was really impressed by that.
Right on. Cool.
And so moving on, there's another few examples I have there. So this is something quite freaky, which was I hope it was purely to give us a chance to use that wide-angle lens. They had some very shiny costumed ladies on stilts walking around the party floor.
Of course they did.
And it was really quite impressive. In, again, very low light conditions with very bright light sources on stage and behind us. It was a good way for them to capture how good these cameras are in challenging light conditions. And here you see Michael Fisher, Super Saf, and myself. We were just about to take a selfie, and Scary Lady in stilts and shiny dress turned up, and we were all a bit shocked.
It's not every day that happens, you know.
But this is an example of really low light picture, and it handled it gracefully. You can actually see Michael Fisher's impeccably groomed facial hair and hair.
I mean, you kind of can. So are you going to be posting a full review of this on Tech Travel Geeks, or where can people find kind of your full write-up on this?
Yes, so you can see I've already done the unboxing that's visible on the Tech Travel Geeks YouTube channel. Over the next few weeks, I'll be going in-depth in the camera, day-to-day use of the device. I'll be getting used to the in-screen fingerprint reader and face unlock, and covering that on Tech Travel Geeks. So yes, techtravelgeeks.com and the Tech Travel Geeks YouTube channel. And I think there's some initial impressions out from some other friends of the show. So as we saw, Michael Fisher was there. Miriam was at the launch as well. And she seemed to be very positively impressed by the Mate 20 Pro.
Yeah.